Hi students. Today we are going to learn about how to create a primary key in Oracle Express Edition by using SQL language. So to create a primary key, primary key basically is a constraint which has two rules. The first rule is that primary key cannot be null and primary key value always remain unique. So if you have to keep the data in tables and you want to have unique rows and you want to identify each row uniquely, then you need to create at least one attribute or column as primary key. So for example, if we have a data, if we have a data of, for example, teachers information, so there must be one attribute which can identify each teacher uniquely. So for example, we have attribute teacher ID, teacher name, phone number, and address. So these are the information, these are the attributes which we want to store. And we have the data about few teachers. For example, teacher ID is 1 and teacher name is, for example, Asad. Phone number is 888 8888 and address is, for example, Karachi. Another teacher we have, his ID is 2, teacher name is Ahmad, and phone number is 77777, for example, and address is Hyderabad. Similarly, we have another teacher 3 whose name is, for example, Kamran. His phone number is 7364, for example, and then address is, for example, Karachi again. So now to identify each teacher uniquely, for example, there can be a teacher who have, both teachers have same name. For example, we have two teachers having Asad as common name. For example, that both have the same name. So this Asad teacher belongs to Karachi, and another teacher Asad, and that teacher belongs to Hyderabad. Now, if we have two teachers, but from the database, if you want to identify each teacher separately or uniquely, then you need to have at least one attribute from these 4 attributes as a unique ID or the primary key. So I want to choose this attribute as primary key because we have teacher ID unique as 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the unique numbers. So we need to make this attribute as primary key attribute, and this attribute will help us to identify, to recognize each row uniquely. So today I'm going to show you how to create a teachers table and to make a primary key to this attribute to create teacher ID as a primary key attribute. So let's create this table. So first of all, you need to write create command, create table teachers. Then you need to create attributes. For example, teacher ID, the first attribute, which we just saw here. Teacher ID is the first attribute, and the data type of teacher ID will be a number, and it has size of 3. And now if you want to make this teacher ID as primary key, then just write primary key. Then comma, you need to create another attribute. Attribute name is teacher name. Just create a teacher underscore name, and the data type of this is varchar, and size is 30. For example, the name can be big, so we're just keeping size as 30 characters. And then we have another attribute name is phone underscore number. So let's create another attribute phone underscore number, and the data type is number again. So there can be 11-digit phone number. and then we have address, which is varchar again, and this can be of 50 characters. So now this is how you can create a table, and to make this teacher ID as primary key by writing just primary keyword, primary key keyword with the attribute name, then the data type, and finally after giving a space you need to write these two words, primary space key, and this table will have teacher ID as primary key. So let's execute it. Now you can see over here the table is created and the teacher table has primary key of teacher ID. So if you want to see the properties or the schema of this table, just describe this table as teachers. To see the schema of this table, just check it out if this column or this attribute is a primary key or not. To confirm it, just see this teacher ID is first attribute, teacher name is second attribute, teacher phone number is third attribute, address is the fourth attribute, and teacher ID is the primary key. This one shows that this primary key teacher ID attribute is chosen as the primary key, and the rest of the columns are not chosen as primary key. Therefore you can see this null sign or empty sign over here. So I hope you have understood how to create primary key in teachers table, and this is very simple by just writing it primary key. Primary keyword from any attribute. After the name, after the data type of any attribute, you just mention it as primary keyword, and that particular attribute will become the primary key of that particular relation or table. So hope it's clear. If you have any question, please comment. I'll answer it. Thank you.